Hey guys, it's Goosebumps Completionist, and today I'm bringing you another book versus episode video. And in today's installment, we're going to be looking at Ghost Beach, book versus episode. Now, the book I gave about a flat 4 out of 5 stars. I think this is an underrated Goosebumps book, held back by some pretty noticeable flaws though, but it has some of the best series tones in Goosebumps that I've read. It has some of the best atmosphere. It has some really dark scenes that I think go unnoticed. And for what I call or think of as an invisible Goosebumps book, I think it deserves a little more recognition. As the episode is probably more famous for the story itself, I gave it about a 3.3 out of 5 stars. In a lot of ways, it's a mega downgrade from the book, but in a lot of ways, it kind of helps fix the book's problems in some ways. So, yeah, you can kind of tell by the point difference where I might be leaning already, and that sometimes is the case and evident when I start these videos. But the reason why I make these is to kind of establish what exactly I liked more in either version of the story. And if you're new to my channel, or if you're new to this series, I go over certain criteria in each video, and I mainly circumvent around these things here. So we always start off with characters, and we run down the list of characters in the story. Sometimes they're only exclusive in the book or the episode, and sometimes they're omitted from something that was in the book. So you'll see that from time to time, but I like to compare them to see which one did it better. I like to look at the atmosphere and say which one had a better atmosphere. Sometimes I look at aesthetics or tone specifically. It just depends on how far apart they are from each other. Here, the aesthetics are more so the same, and same with the tone, almost. So, not going to cover them here. It's a case-to-case thing for those two. And then we go over plot, which one had a better plot. Then we go over climax, which one had a better climax. And then the ending, and declare which one had a better ending. So, let's start off with characters, because there's quite a bit of characters here to go over. And I guess we're going to start off with the narrator, or the main character of Ghost Beach, who's Jerry. Jerry in the book is pretty basic. Jerry's just an average kid. He's from New Jersey. He lives in an apartment. He's kind of adventurous and kind of apprehensive of things supernatural. And he's close with his sister. That's all about Jerry that you really get a feel for in the book. Honestly, he's just a super stock character, but he's fine. You know what I mean? As in the episode, Jerry still feels the same. He's just an average kid. I really have no preference here. They honestly don't differ to me, like, plot wise. Even though I think the book's story does give a little more to Jerry here, and since he's the narrator of the story, you do at times get to feel his fear a little more, and some of his nightmares and the things he goes through in the story is a little bit better. So if I had a preference, I'd give the slight edge to the book, but honestly, they're pretty much tied here for me. So there you go. The sister, Terry, on the other hand, look, I'm going to be upfront. Terry, her actress in the episode cannot act, and it detracts from me even liking her character. But I think she's more supposed to be like this quirky girl, and she's still kind of like the average quirky girl that you'll see in these books sometimes. She's mostly fine in the book, and she's annoying in the episode because of the performance. So if I had a preference for Terry, who's the science geek that's into weird hobbies and stuff, I'd probably give it to the book, because at least it's more fun there, I guess. So there you go. And then we have, of course, I'm going to pair these two together. We have Brad and Agatha. I feel like in the book, they're kind of just there in the story, and they're not really creepy all that much. You can clearly tell that they're withholding some information. But I think in the episode, they're a little more charming. And it's because of the acting performances and some mild scene changes with them that I think really do help it for me. So if I had a preference for Brad and Agatha, even though some people might be scratching their head when comparing these two because they're pretty much the same, I like the episode version a little more, and I think sometimes the performances can make or break that, and this is one of those cases. So there you go. Now we're going to get into 3 specific kids. We have Sam, Louisa, and Nat. I guess we'll go ahead and start off with Nat, because Nat was cut out of the episode. So automatically Nat goes to the book by default. But Nat is pretty much the superfluous of the trio, the superfluous one anyway. So don't really need to talk much about him. He's just a little 5-year-old kid that toadies around his older siblings. So that's all you need to know. Let's get into Louisa next, I guess. Louisa, her actress in the episode is god-awful. 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 Book-wise, she can be annoying at times. She seems like she likes messing with people, but don't like it when they kind of poke and prod around her. Yeah, Louisa is not the most engaging of the 3 siblings, or the other Sadlers, I should say. It's definitely Sam in both versions, in my opinion. But if I had a preference for Louisa, I'd give it to the book because I think it's a little bit better. And she gets more screen time in the book, at least in terms of moments in the story where she kind of impacts plot a little more by herself. So there you go. And then we have Sam. Sam in the episode cannot act. He's literally just the leader of these kids. Pretty much the same thing. I'm going to give it to the book for the same reasons as Louisa. No real need to go over it into Sam too much, even though Sam, I think in the book, has just a little more there, and you'll see why if you read it. So I don't want to give too much spoilers, so there you go. And then we have Harrison Sadler, and Harrison Sadler is the person in the cave that is thought to be a ghost, or he's misunderstood to be a ghost in either version. I feel like in the episode, he has almost as much screen time as the book, but then again, he's not that compelling or interesting. And I feel like the book definitely establishes him a little more and gives him a little more time to have the stage. And I do think that the direction they took in the book, even though I didn't want that direction for the character in the climax, I do think that it helps send it home for me with them a little better. So if I had the preference for Harrison Sadler, I'm honestly going to give it to the book again. So there you go. So yeah, for characters, the book is winning pretty much handily here most of the time, but the episode does have a few things that I like. So there's that. Atmosphere, which one had a better atmosphere? I think the episode did a valiant attempt. You got to keep in mind, this show was filmed in Canada, and sometimes they were able to find some things that really did look like where they were attempting to film in their home country, trying to replicate what it would look like in America, right? So I tip my hat to the production team and trying to, for the most part, try to keep that gloomy, creepy atmosphere that was in the book. It's a valiant effort, but the writing in the book's a bit stronger than the execution on screen. And here's the thing about often than not when we're talking about these things between the book and the episode, here's the thing about episodes. They have the visual medium, and that's just another dimension that the books just don't have, okay? So when you have another dimension to it, you have to weigh the visual medium almost as equally as the storytelling, the plot, because you have all of this extra stuff like the performances, the soundtrack. You have all these new mediums that this just doesn't have. So often than not, those things can weigh down atmosphere, and I don't think that's the case here. But I just think sometimes all you need is good writing, and that can make it endlessly better. And this is one of those classic examples that you'll see in these face-offs. That I think this is the reason why books usually win in atmosphere. It's just Stein's able to write atmosphere very well, and if you love atmospheric Stein books, this is one to try for that. So there you go. Atmosphere goes to the book. Now let's get into plot, because Here's the thing. A lot of people might disagree with what I'm about to say, but I think the book is pretty meandering. Here's the thing about the plot. If you've read The Werewolf of Fever Swamp, it has an almost identical idea, but it just changes up character relationships that you saw in Fever Swamp. Like the siblings are a bit closer. There's a little more side characters in the story. You have a similar, point the finger, scapegoat bad guy kind of thing going on. This urban legend, and the story takes a while to build up to a climax to release the tension. But unlike Fever Swamp, this book just hopscotches back and forth between point A to point B, point A to point B, point A to point B, literally multiple times before we even get to a point C. And it's annoying. Plot-wise, it doesn't feel as cohesive as it should. Especially if you break down the story. It's supposed to be about, Jerry and Terry. They come to visit their long-distant cousins. They get into some, unorthodox hobbies while they're visiting the beach area. And they stumble across these kids who introduce the idea that there's a ghost haunting the beach. And then it starts plaguing their minds. They get kind of consumed in that. And they start doing investigating and trying to unravel the mystery. For this being a mystery-focused plot, it doesn't do it as well. And I think the episode surprisingly trims out a lot of the ailments the book had. It cut out all the zigzagging and the hopscotching and kept it more linear, like it probably should have been, and a whole lot neater. So, shockingly, I'm giving the plot edge to the episode. Which, some people might be, blown away by me saying that, but I do think the plot is better. I do think it. Now, that does not take away, if we're comparing this here, the episode does cut out a lot of the scary scenes, if not all the scary scenes from the book. If you want to count those, if you want to throw that reasoning into the hat, the book is edgier than that in tone, involving the plot, And I said I wasn't going to talk about tone and the aesthetics, but obviously, if I'm going to talk about tone, the book wins out. All right, there you go. Now let's get into the climax. Which one had a better climax? So this is basically in both versions where Jerry and Terry they've been through what they've been through, and they wind up at one point or another at the Harrison Sadler's cave with this idea in tow to possibly trap him under the guise that they're doing this to help their friends that they've met, like Sam and Louisa, or Sam, Louisa, and Nat in the book. But there's a recontextualization and events change the course of these intentions here, possibly. Which one did it better? Honestly, both are really rushed in either version, but I think the book has way more substance there about it, especially with dealing with Harrison's character. And I feel like there's more to the climax, and it's a bit more creepy and tense as compared to the episode here, where it's literally just blink and you miss it, about a 1 or 2 minute climax with some ridiculous stuff involving lightning that makes really no logical sense, in my opinion. So, yeah. If I had a preference on climax, I'm going to give it to the book. Now, the ending. Now, this ending is quite infamous in Goosebumps because it's a big love it or hate it one. I've seen a lot of people say in the past that the ending of the book, in their opinion, kind of takes away from it. Or vice versa, the ending of the book makes them love it. And then in the episode, same thing. A lot of people say one of the best things they love about the episode is the ending of it, or people say that there's a change in the episode's ending that they don't like at all. In my opinion, it all comes down to context. Here's the thing. There's a mechanism in the book involving dog bones. And there's this idea that maybe ghosts eat dogs or animals that can sense them or something. But it's never really played up to be anything in the story other than just some old wise tale. As in the episode tries to work that into the mechanic, and it involves the ending. Let's just say. Maybe not that exact idea, or maybe it is the exact idea. I'm not going to reveal that to you, but it's there. And it's quite evident. And I think I prefer the episode's ending because the delivery of it is darker, and you don't have to think about it and think back onto some other things that the book said as possible outcomes of what's going to happen. I think having a clear answer is more disturbing, at least in this case. And I can totally understand if you like the book better because of the ambiguity. It makes you think, it makes you ponder, and that could be scarier. But I prefer the episode personally. So, without all that out the way, which one is superior for Ghost Beach, the book or the episode? Like I mentioned before, characters, the book pretty much wins out. Atmosphere of the book wins out. If we're talking aesthetics about tone, the book wins out. The plot, however, the plot and the ending, I think the episode wins out a little bit. In some instances by a big margin for me, or it has big brownie points for trying to fix it, so I prefer it just to give it something here. But then again, if you look at the climax where, like, you know, all the tension's supposed to be released in a slow burn book, both aren't amazing. Both are very rushed, but at least the book offers that better release of the tension. So, you know, I think the book is just stronger in that back half anyway. So there you go. But like I said, the episode does have some wins in some other columns, like with certain characters like Agatha and Brad for me. But all in all, it's kind of a runaway here, and it's almost by quite a few hairs. And I'm gonna have to give the edge to Ghost Beach's book. The book is superior in my opinion. And it really does come down to, I want to say execution, because both of them kind of do fumble the bag of execution of the idea itself. But it comes down to, I guess, in this specific case, which one is able to be more atmospheric, which one is able to be less annoying with the characters, and which one is able to be creepier. And especially when you have a story with this serious of a tone, which is not really the course for Goosebumps most of the time. There's hardly any humor in either of these, surprisingly, versions here. Ghost Beach is definitely one of those stories in Goosebumps that is completely and 100% played straight the whole time, hardly any humor. If we're looking at that on that basis, I think the book is just a better product over the episode. Now, here's the thing. Goosebumps is a book franchise. Of course, go read the book before you watch the episode. While I won't recommend the episode over the book, I will say that if you want to see what the writers of the show sometimes could do in terms of like fixing source material, or maybe just tweaking some things or straightening up some of the messiness Stein was kind of putting into the books, I think you might enjoy some aspects about the episode. It honestly depends. If you're a fan of JonTron and if you've seen his video on Ghost Beach, you're probably well versed in the roasting that this episode historically gets. You know, you can join that bandwagon, or you can join, you know, just watching it and seeing if you'll like it for what it is, or, you know, you might hate it for what it is. Who knows? But that's all I have to say about Ghost Beach, honestly, in this comparison here. So, yeah, let me know down in the comment section if you've read Ghost Beach before, if you've seen the episode before. Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the book or the episode, or are they tied for you in some ways? I'm dying to know, and I'll see you next time.